On today's show, after 2 wins this weekend, the Ottawa Senators are locked into the top wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. We'll break down what needs to happen to find out who the opponent is for round 1.
And when the puck drops in game 1, what should the Sens' ideal lineup be?
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Monday, April 14th, and Pilsy, at the start of the season, we said 9 of the last 11 at home. You gotta make those games count. And so far, so good. The Sens have won 5 straight on home ice.
Yeah, it's been a great month of April, Ross. I mean, clinching, winning games at home in front of the good fans at the CTC, locking in that number 1 wildcard spot, getting guys rest that they need, other players getting opportunities to get in games and elevate their play. There's not a whole lot you can complain about this month of April.
Can I admit something?
Of course.
I've watched that overtime goal at least 50 times. I can't stop watching the puck movement. And even before the tick, 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 tack toe in the back of the net, how about the play from Jake Sanderson? The diving poke check to keep the offensive possession alive, knowing that one flyer was without a stick and another one was hobbled. That effort play set the whole thing in motion.
And you could see it, Ross. Every time there was a loose puck, it was like the player closest to it kicked into another gear. Like it wasn't just, oh man, I got to get that. It's like, I will fight for my life to get that puck and make sure it doesn't get cleared. So that's a huge part of why the Ottawa Senators were able to win there. Because if you can't score on a power play 4-on-3 in overtime, it's kind of like the 5-on-3 story. You don't deserve to win the game.
Yes, and they did. And they ultimately gave it to the German, and he put the puck in the back of the net for his second in 2 periods, which is a lot better than his second in 18 games, which was Timmy's first goal of the contest. Hopefully he can carry that momentum and confidence, which he says comes from the crowd at the CTC, into the final 2 games of the regular season and into the playoffs. No matter what happens against Chicago at home tomorrow, Carolina at home on Thursday, the Senators are guaranteed to finish in the first wildcard spot. Also, 6th in the conference, but because the divisional matchups the way they are, New Jersey, despite having less points than Ottawa, will finish 3rd in the Metropolitan. But you know what? I'm cool with that, because if they had gone 1 through 8, Ottawa would be playing Carolina in the first round.
Yeah, and hey, that was one of the teams, Ross, I believe, was on both of our teams we're scared of list. But
DNP, do not play.
Yeah, let's have this discussion though. Do you think the 1 through 8 formula is the better way, or do you like how it's set up now, regardless of how it literally shakes out in reality? I mean, just in general.
Yeah, I mean, we're not a LA Kings podcast, so we don't have to play against McDavid and Draisaitl 4 years in a row in the first round. I think it's good for the rivalries. Yeah. I do understand that. I think it's great for that, and we've been begging for a Battle of Ontario. Ottawa has not made the playoffs in the last 7 years before this one, so it wasn't an opportunity. And when Ottawa used to make the playoffs all the time, Toronto didn't. So this is a rivalry we've been begging for, and the easiest way to make it happen, even though it's a wild card situation, is through the Atlantic and Metropolitan. So I like it. I think we're going to get potentially elite first round all over the league. You get Colorado, Dallas. I'm sure both those teams don't like the way that things are setting up with they're both going to finish top 4. They would both get home ice in the Western Conference, but now they're going to have to play each other in the first round. You're potentially going to get Winnipeg and Minnesota. Great rivalry there. You're potentially going to get the Battle of Florida between Tampa and the Panthers. There's just great matchups setting up all across the National Hockey League, but none could be better than the Senators taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So for that to happen, people were wondering, because the Leafs won last night, did that lock it in? No, because the Tampa Bay Lightning also got a regulation time victory over the Buffalo Sabres. So with 2 games remaining, the Lightning are 4 points back of Toronto, and they're both tied with 40 regulation wins, which is the first tiebreaker. So Tampa needs to win both of their last games, and Toronto can get 0 points. If the Leafs so much as go to overtime one more time, the Battle of Ontario will be locked in.
Yeah, I haven't even really looked at those scenarios. I've kind of decided it's going to be the Battle of Ontario, so I'm pretty set on that happening. As for the playoff format, I love it. I'm a divisions guy. I want to see division rivalries get going. I want to see the hatred between these teams when they play. Like, look at football. The division rivalries in football are huge. It's a little tougher in the NHL because they've switched how the divisions align, and there's been new teams coming in and expansions and teams moving and things like that. But once it's set, and especially like in the East, I feel like those division rivalries are really, really strong, especially in Canada. So I like it. The one thing I would change, though, I wouldn't mind if they went back to original reseeding after the first round, because I don't love the way that you can see the path already before things even shake out. I like the idea of, okay, first round, line it up, second round, you should get a little bit more advantage to having a higher seed in the regular season. That would be my one qualm.
The Ottawa Senators, though, cannot play the Florida Panthers in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs anymore. Thank goodness. We don't need Brady Tkachuk's first playoff series to be overshadowed by a Matthew versus Brady storyline. My storyline is Brady Tkachuk playing the playoffs. I don't care who it's against. And frankly, I kind of love that it's against the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that he has had success against, not only as a team, but individually as well. Brady Tkachuk's got 20 points in 28 career games against the blue team. Now, the blue team has 2 games left. As we mentioned, they need 1 point to lock in Battle of Ontario. They are at Buffalo tomorrow and then at home to Detroit on Thursday. So those are the 2 games left for Toronto. If Toronto loses both of those games in regulation, then the Lightning would need to drop at least 1 point at home against Florida tomorrow. The Panthers, that's going to be a huge game, not only for that situation, but also the Panthers are 2 points behind Tampa. So the Panthers are going to be gunning for home ice advantage in that potential matchup. So that's not going to be a cakewalk for Tampa. And then the Lightning finish their season in New York against the Rangers on Thursday night. So that's how the matchups work for the rest of the regular season. Again, 1 point for Toronto clinches a Battle of Ontario. Pilsy, this is what we've been waiting all season for. Every SensCentral Citizen that we had on the show in the summer said, not only do I want the Sens to make the playoffs, but I want the Toronto Maple Leafs. And we are going to Toronto later on in this show. We've got a SensCentral Citizen, Patrick, from the heart of enemy territory. So we'll talk about how it is a high-risk, high-reward series, but to be able to win, you have to put the right pieces on the ice. Before we get to our playoff lineup, Pilsy, did anything you've seen in the last 2 games, but specifically against Philly where they were resting certain players, change your opinion of how the lineup should look for game 1?
No, I don't think anything changed my opinion. Yeah, like, what, am I going to get Hayden Hodgson's in the lineup somehow after these 2 games? No. Is Dennis Gilbert going to be a must start on the third pair? No. And that's no offense to those guys. I like the way they look there, but they just don't leapfrog any other players, in my opinion.
Well, let's get to our game 1 projected lineup for the Ottawa Senators. First time in show history we've been able to do this. Shout out to the everydayers making us your first listen each and every day. This is episode 1269 of our daily show, not even including postcast, not including bonus coverage. And for the first time ever, we're discussing playoff lineups. That's on the other side. You're talking about Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Upwork. Are you scaling your business? Well, it takes the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, developing, design, and even more. Experts are ready to help you take your business to the next level, to the playoffs. Upwork is giving your business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project quickly or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who's delivered incredible results in the past. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, multiple quality candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, UPWORK.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
All right, Pilsy, it is Monday of the final week of the regular season. Excitement is at an all-time high, and rightfully so, because the Ottawa Senators, for the first time in the Brady Tkachuk era, are heading to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, Steve Staios was on the TSN broadcast on Sunday, and he said he doesn't see any reason why Brady Tkachuk won't be ready for Game 1 of the playoffs.
He's playing in the playoffs. Anyone that thinks otherwise or has concerns otherwise, just take a deep breath. Brady Tkachuk is going to be there for Game 1 in the playoffs. I guarantee it. Like, there's no way he's missing Game 1. I don't see a world where that happens. He's skating. They already said if this was playoff atmosphere, he'd be playing. So I have no worries in my mind whatsoever that Brady Tkachuk will not be there come puck drop.
Good timing, because Bruce Garriock is on the scene at the Sensplex right now. Brady Tkachuk is skating on the ice. Bruce says he's in a non-contact jersey. I don't know if he's colorblind or me, but it looks like he's wearing the same colored jersey as Fabian Zetterlund, but maybe that is just me. But he's back on the ice with the teammates. They're going to be out skating for practice here in the next 10 minutes. We'll get you any updates we need to at the end of today's show following our SensCentral Citizen. But the ideal playoff lineup for the Ottawa Senators, Pilsy, how close is it to what we've seen in the last weeks? Obviously, minus Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah, I mean, not having Brady there really throws a wrench in the whole lineup. But I would say it's like the lineup we discussed. What was it? Friday we did that, Ross? What episode did we do? Our
Thursday. Friday we had Jamie Campbell, if you missed it, Blue Jays Central host who watches Sens games while he's doing the Jays games.
Yeah, exactly. Great interview with Jamie. Yeah, I think our lineup is going to be pretty much the same. Like the top three lines are going to be what you would expect, and then the fourth line, I love the idea of Nick Cousins, Adam Gaudette, and Fabian Zetterlund. I don't love keeping Zetterlund down there, but I'm not about to have him replace anyone else. I love the chemistry of these lines. I know earlier I tinkered with the idea of flipping Zetterlund and Amadio. No chance. That third line shutdown matchup line has to stay intact. And I wouldn't even be surprised, Ross, if they're the first line out there starting every game. Like, it wouldn't be that crazy to me to have them there. So unfortunately, I think Fabian Zetterlund, he's just going to have to find ways to contribute when he gets those shifts, few and far between. And when he gets time on the second power play unit, that's where he's going to have to shine.
Yeah, and we know that shot is lethal, and he could make a difference in a playoff series no matter where he goes. He's got 3 points in his last 4 games, 2 goals in his last 3. The average ice time has come up big time. He played 17 minutes on Friday against the Montreal Canadiens, and he had 6 shots on goal in the loss to Columbus last Tuesday. So he's finding ways, but obviously is getting more opportunity than he likely will when Brady Tkachuk gets back. We've got Tim Stützle centering Brady Tkachuk and Claude Giroux. Then we've got Dylan Cousins with David Perron and Drake Batherson, Shane Pinto with Ridley Gregg and Michael Amadio, and that fourth line of Adam Gaudette with Nick Cousins and Fabian Zetterlund. We've got Jake Sanderson with Artem Zub. We've got Thomas Chabot with Nick Jensen, Tyler Klevin with Nicholas Matin-Palo, and Linus Ullmark, Anton Forsberg, the goalies when it comes to the playoffs. Which player do you think of this lineup, if you're Travis Green, is the most likely to be a healthy scratch?
Of this lineup?
Correct.
I mean, unfortunately, it's probably Nicholas Matin-Palo. We know Travis Green, for reasons unbeknownst to Sens fans, hockey analysts around the globe, every person online, Travis Green likes having Travis Hamonic in the lineup, and I don't think it would be that crazy if we saw Hamonic at least starting in the playoffs instead of Matthew Powell. And unfortunately, Matthew Powell's had a couple rough games. I know he scored his first NHL goal, but apart from that, hasn't looked great. If you're asking me, I still roll out that line of Cleven, Matthew Powell. A couple bad game sample size is not enough for me to not trust them or think they can't play their role. But I can see Travis Green certainly being like, look, we're going for the veteran experience here and putting Hamonic on that third pair.
You thought he might have learned something when it came about that things were starting to look better when Travis Hamonic left the lineup. They won 5 straight at home. I guess 4 straight because Hamonic did play on Sunday against Philly. I just don't want to see it. Now, ironically, the pair of Tyler Cleven and Travis Hamonic analytically has been much better than Cleven and Matthew Powell.
No, over the whole season?
In expected goals percentage, yeah, and it's actually not quite close.
Wow, that is shocking to me.
In expected goals percentage for players for D pairs that have played over 150 minutes together, Cleven and Hamonic have played 183 minutes together. They have a 48.9 expected goals percentage. Cleven and Matthew Powell are dead last with 39.7%.
Yeah, but now I wonder if you take out the sample size of Cleven and Matthew Powell the last couple games, how that changes, because I think they got caved in there.
Yeah, people can go to Natural Stat Trick and do that with the dates, but which is kind of strange because that's expected goals, right? That's what chances and where the puck is on the ice while they're out there. But if you go with actual goals, Pilsy, the worst pair is Cleven and Hamonic. 3 goals for, 11 against in those 183 minutes. Cleven and Matthew Powell are at 41%, 10 goals for, and 14 against.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not, maybe this is just because I'm not a math guy, but I'm not a big expected goals percentage guy.
I'm not always, but it does match the eye test quite often.
Yeah, no, and that's fair, and that's why we use it on our postcast stats. But for me, I glance at it. I don't put that much stock into it. Not many concentration calories.
My problem is that in a playoff game, one mistake can burn you. And the guy who's most likely to make mistakes is number 23.
Yeah, 100%. So, look, don't get it twisted. I'm not advocating for that. You asked me if I'm Travis Green, what could happen. That would be the one that I could see happening. And
apparently gray is also a non-contact jersey. I thought it would be yellow, like Nick Cousins was wearing.
Those look black to me.
Right?
Like if you're going to wear a non-contact jersey, make it the most obvious thing in the world. Yeah, like it should be the bright yellow.
Yeah.
That's
Brady Tkachuk's back on the ice for practice, and that's what we love to see. We'll wrap up today's show with what today's practice lineup is, but let us know in the comments. I want to see some lineups in the comments. Who is your starting roster for the Stanley Cup playoffs game 1? I keep stumbling over my words. I'm just so friggin' excited that we're going to get some playoff hockey in Ottawa for game 3, 4, and maybe even 6. And then they will start. I actually like that they're starting on the road, Pilsy. Do you?
I don't feel that strong about it. I wanted to bring this discussion up, but is home advantage really that big of a deal?
No. I actually think for an inexperienced team, starting on the road is better.
Yeah, and it really, though, where it becomes a huge advantage is only if it goes to game 7. Like, if it goes to game 7 and you're the home team, that, like, obviously that is a big boost. But apart from that, I don't know if it's worth all the hype that it gets.
Senators have never won a game 7, so hopefully it doesn't get there.
Yeah, but I mean, how many have the Leafs won in recent history?
I don't know, but the Sens are 0-6-0 all time.
Oh, man,
there's no such thing as and-0. They're 0-6 all time.
Yeah, the and-0, you don't get that added on there.
No, you don't.
Yeah, and it's painful that their last playoff game was a game 7 double overtime.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't think, regardless of how it goes, I don't see a Battle of Ontario series being wrapped up in 5 or less. I think it's going to game 6.
Sens in 6 just sounds so good.
Yeah, Sens in 6 does sound good. Let's go with that.
All right, let's get to our SensCentral Citizen. We'll wrap up the show on the other side. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. Pistachio Pillsy here. Are you guys looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the salt and pepper flavor in the light purple bags. Ross likes the lightly salted, but if you don't want to deal with the shells, check out the no shells variety, the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether you're snacking at your desk doing the postcast, on a road trip, or you just need a quick protein boost, they should be your go-to snack. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen from the heart of enemy territory in downtown Toronto. Patrick joins us. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Are you noticing a lot of blue downtown these days in Toronto?
Yeah, not in the arena, but around the arena.
So you're from Toronto too, right? Like you've grown up with all this around you. How'd you become an Ottawa Senators fan?
Yeah, I get asked that all the time. My dad is a Rangers fan who hates the Leafs. My older brother, when I was growing up, was a Sabres fan. He's since switched, but there's no Leafs influence in my household. The only influence was my dad, who hated them. And I've got family in Ottawa, and my uncle in Ottawa was actually part of the legal team that brought the Sens to the city. So he's got some really, really cool paraphernalia in his house. And I said, this is my squad now.
So around what time did you become like a legit Sens fan? Like what Sens era are we talking about here?
I distinctly remember like Marian Hossa, I thought was really cool. And then I was kind of, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And then the 07 Cup run was like, okay, this team is actually really good. I got really into it immediately following that year.
So who would be the guys from that 07 Cup run? Obviously, Marian Hossa was gone by then. Alfie's an easy one, but give me a lower end player that really caught your love and attention.
Yeah, I don't know, like Alfie. Yeah, I don't know about lower end.
There wasn't a whole lot of lower end on that team.
Yeah. I don't know. Like the pizza line was really cool, really fun to watch. I liked Anton Volchenkov.
Hell yeah. That was the jersey I wore during that playoff run. I felt like a million pounds. I felt like I'd block anything, just eat pucks for breakfast. He's on the list that we brought up last week of who could the Sens bring out alumni-wise to fire up the crowd. Who would be top on your list for that?
So I like that segment. That was cool. I really think, they should tie it to the 17 sort of playoff run. Like any of the names you guys hit would be like Kyle Turris would be amazing. But I mean, if we want to go a little older, like again, Marian Hossa would do it for me.
That'd be awesome.
Be fun.
As long as he doesn't wear his 3 cup rings with another team.
Yeah. Good Red was fun. I don't know why he's sort of a niche part of my childhood as well. Like that'd be cool to watch.
Yeah.
I think it should be a more recent, Andy would be amazing.
And just the relationship that Kyle Turris and Ian Mendes have had over the years, it just feels like a no-brainer to get Kyle Turris to fly in from Vancouver for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And he feels like, I feel like Ottawa is still the team in place he's connected to the most. I mean, I'd be interested to hear what he would say about it, but that's the kind of vibe I get. And I think he would love to come back. And I think the Sens community would welcome him back with open arms. So it would be interesting to see the reaction if it was Kyle Turris. Patrick, do you get a chance to go to many games to see reactions at the CTC?
Go to games in Ottawa. Yeah, we go like once a year or so. Okay. We went a couple years ago for my bachelor party, Sens versus Leafs. We went to the St. Patty's Day game. Unfortunately, lost in a shootout there. And since then, we've decided that that's the best way to go about it. So every year since, I guess that was 2023. So the 2 following years, we we get a box and fill it up with a bunch of, like, unfortunately Leafs fans, because that's who I know and myself, and I'm fighting for my life in there, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, well, at least you're representing in there, because as much red as we can get in the arena for those games, the better. Does that impact who you want to play in the playoffs? I haven't even asked you. Are you hoping for Battle of Ontario?
I mean, that's high risk, high reward, right? Like, it would be amazing. If the worst case happens, I might have to sell the house and make new friends, start up a new life. But yeah, I mean, that's what we're headed towards, and that's my mentality is kind of anyone, anytime, any place. Like, let's just get to it. We've been waiting for too long. I'll play. They'll play. I'll cheer for them against whoever. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
but you're not worried about going into a game 3 at home and maybe a split crowd?
I do hate it, but whatever is what it is. I don't know.
You can shut them up pretty fast if a 20-year-old has a hat trick and you just have 5 fights at the same time and win all 5. The other team's fan base gets pretty quiet. I can speak from experience to that when the Sens and Habs had their playoff series. That's so it adds for an awesome atmosphere on TV, at least. I know in the building it's frustrating, but to have the oohs and ahs when opportunities go both ways, it adds something for sure. But hey, you just got to earn your right to a full Ottawa Senators crowd if that's the case, and just get past round 1, because I don't think the Panthers or Lightning fans are going to be flocking to the CTC same way. How do you think the Sens match up against the Maple Leafs?
Yeah, like again, objectively, I think that's sort of the team they have the best chance to beat. We're kind of playing with house money at this point versus all of the pressure that's stacked onto the Leafs. I like it. I like our odds, but again, I'm quite nervous.
I want to word this carefully, because I think that I could get you in trouble with clips if it doesn't go the right way. If the Senators beat the Leafs this year, that would break up the core. There's no, right? Like, we could end this era of Leafs hockey.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, I think even if a lot of my friends, a lot of my colleagues are kind of looking past the Sens already to the second round, I don't think that, I think if the Leafs lose a la whatever, you're like 4 gentlemen sweep in the second round, the core is also broken up. But again, what do I care? What do I care about the blue team?
No, I'd rather just do it ourselves. It'd just be money. I hope it happens. Who's your X factor for the playoffs this year?
I knew that was. I think it's too easy to say Linus. It always comes down to goaltending in the playoffs, right? So that's kind of the low hanging fruit. I do think the other thing is kind of secondary scoring. So we've spent a lot of time. You guys spent a lot of time talking about that. The third line that's playing really well, and I think any one of them can and needs to step up to be the difference.
How do you want the Senators to kind of finish out the last 2 games of the season here? Like we were talking about, let's start with goaltending. Like, do you split the games? Do you want Linus in both of those? Do you want him straight rest? Like, how would you go about the goaltending in the last 2 games here?
Split it, but I don't know, not really overthinking these last 2 games, right? Just no one can get hurt. Whatever, I think you go to Linus and you say, how are you feeling, right? Do you want touches or do you want to rest? I think the easiest from a fan's perspective is to let Anton play against Chicago and then give Linus the last game, but whatever.
Who's been your MVP this season overall? Because I know there's been ebbs and flows. Certain guys have stepped up in a month, 2 month span, but over the course of the entire season, who are you giving the Sens MVP? Yeah,
I think Jake Sanderson's. Yeah, it's not quite close. He's turned into quite something. You guys were really hyping him up on the postcast, and rightfully so, right? Like he's playing some unbelievable hockey. He's allowed Shabbat to kind of fill into what is probably a better role for him. He's changed our back end. He's been awesome.
I actually have a wild stat on that front. I was looking up, since December 13th, that was the night that they beat the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina, that late win on the road, and it kind of felt like it turned the tide of the season there. I think it started the win streak that they had. And since that day, I think I can even go back to the start of December. You know that Jake Sanderson in one less game has 1 more point than Tim Stützle? Like, he leads the team in scoring over the last 51 games. Like, this is a big sample size, plus what he does with his skating and on the backside without the puck. It's outrageous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Timmy even said it himself in the last interview, right? Like, he hasn't really been playing his best, and whatever is what it is. But yeah, Jake's been playing unbelievably.
Yeah, he's wild. And it just shows how tough the start of the season was when Zub was out and he was paired with Hamonic, and like he's still a -12 on the year. He's +2 since December 13th. So it's just like what a turnaround. And it just shows, not that Sens fans needed a reminder, but how important it is to have a pairing, a proper pairing, where you're not having a guy who should be one of your best, most impactful players kind of carrying his partner around the ice. So yeah, I like that call for Jake Sanderson. And I mean, Ian told us last week, there's American journalists who are in the PWHA who are considering putting Jake Sanderson at number 5 on their Norris ballot. And this guy turns 23 in July. Like it's outrageous.
Yeah. I think people are going to find out come playoff time. I mean, if they didn't at the Four Nations, they're going to find out come playoff time, who Jake Sanderson is.
What's your story of the season, Patrick? Like, I feel like there's so many highs and lows. There's so many players that had underwhelming performances, then figured it out. There's guys that saved the season, if you will. Like for you, what's been the biggest story of the Senators season?
I think that's a good question. Sort of their resiliency, right? I think seasons past, teams past, if they have, I mean, we've seen the November collapse, and then nothing really comes of it. 2 years ago, went on a bit of a run when it was kind of too little too late. But this year, chalk it up to Travis Green, chalk it up to, adding in the right vets. But I kind of stumbled in November, but stuck to it. And obviously, turned things around in December. And it's not particular. Again, Jake Sanders is having a great year, but it's not really one guy, right? Like Timmy goes on a cold streak and someone else steps up, right? It's really been a team in this season across the line.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of part and parcel with the guy who, again, since December 13th is third on the team in scoring is Shane Pinto. He had 1 goal and I think 3 points in his first 19 games, and he was battling through that injury. So the resilience, even individually, to come through cold spells and be able to come out the other side. It's that mind of a goldfish that Linus Ullmark talked about, and you're able to see that throughout the lineup. And Travis Green, I think, deserves a ton of credit for that as well. Patrick, final question for me, man. We really appreciate you coming on. This has been fantastic. I'm just curious, with what we've seen so far this season, what is the one area the Sens need to improve on going into the playoffs to win a series?
I still think that there's some, defensive lapses, right? Like how many breakaways did the Flyers have? And bad changes. I think Everyday Sens and Matt were having a little thread on Twitter about bad, whether it's a quick turnover once you break out and the D are going off to change. So there's still a little bit of details. How many, like they have to lead the league in too many men penalties, little things like that it will come back to bite them when the game's being that much more.
Final question for me, Patrick. You mentioned you're going to try to get to one playoff game. What jersey are you going to rock for that game? It's a big decision.
Timmy. I don't have a big jersey collection. I bought a Timmy when they announced it was UE, and I didn't switch it to the umlaut. Like I
okay.
Oh yeah. I have a couple blanks, but like that's really my only wearable jersey. I've got a couple others that are sort of in the shadow box, but yeah, Timmy.
That's unique. I like that. It's been a unique interview. We really appreciate you doing this. Everyone can follow Patrick on Twitter. Dollars Sens. I imagine that's from the internal cap years, eh?
There's kind of a story behind that as well. I was active on Sens Twitter just from my personal, and I work in finance, and I had a client ask me, my personal account is, more economic and financial commentary. And then I had a client ask me, why I felt so strongly about Tom Pyatt. And I said, I should probably separate these a little bit here.
Nice.
So it's more relates to my profession than anything else.
Well, if you like chirping the Habs, you'll love Dollars Sens on Twitter. Really appreciate you doing this, Patrick. Hopefully we'll see you at the CTC come playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, boys.
All right, stick taps to Patrick for joining us. Really fun conversation. And Pillsy, while that conversation was happening, the Senators were on the ice for practice, and Brady Tkachuk is lined up in his usual spot at left wing on the top line with Tim Stützle and Fabian Zetterlund.
You'll love to see that. Yeah. Again, guys, let's not panic here over Brady Tkachuk's health. I think he's going to be just fine. It'll be interesting to see whether he gets into the game on Tuesday or Thursday. I think they're going to try to get him in one game, though. It would surprise me if they continue to rest him the whole time here.
We don't get a sense of what we just discussed, which are the playoff lineups, because as Travis Green mentioned after the game against Philly yesterday, the original plan was to rest Claude Giroux for that game, but Ridley Gregg woke up not feeling 100%, so they decided to give him the day off. Well, Ridley Gregg was back in his usual spot at left wing with Shane Pinto and Michael Amadio, but Claude Giroux was skating as an extra with Angus Crookshank. This just seems like maintenance.
Yeah, but they're going to give him one of these games off, don't you think?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So that's good. He deserves it, and it'll be interesting to see if they give Sanderson a game off as well.
Jake Sanderson is the only player missing at practice today. I'd say you deserved it after that great diving play in the overtime and just being an absolute stud all season long. We brought up some of the stats in that conversation with Patrick, but Dennis Gilbert looks like the placeholder on that spot on the blue line, leaving Clevin with Hamonic on the third pair, Matt and Paolo being an extra in that situation. So that'll be something to monitor as we head through the week. We'll have a game day preview tomorrow ahead of the matchup against the Chicago Blackhawks. But Pilsy, tonight we're cheering for the Blackhawks, aren't we?
Big time, Ross, big time. I don't think it's going to happen, but we can hope. If the Columbus Blue Jackets can win their last two games and the Habs lose their last two, oh my God, them getting leapfrogged by the Blue Jackets at the last second, including loss to the Sens to not be able to sweep the season series, and Demidov coming in all for naught, would just be a beautiful thing.
Yes, we won't get too far ahead of ourselves, but Ottawa will catch the Blackhawks tomorrow on the second half of a back-to-back. The Blackhawks will be in Montreal tonight. For today, we say goodbye. Thank you so much for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. We'll have a game day preview tomorrow. Lots planned for the rest of this week as we get ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs, back with the Ottawa Senators taking part. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.